All right, we're back at it. Coach Schuman, Mike Farrell. Let's
Renewed
talk about
vigor.
NFL Combine, but before we do that, let's talk about the D1 promo.
Yeah, so renewed vigor with the promo, myfootballcamps.com/D1, myfootballcamps.com/transfer. The transfer portal one's been a little bit slower, and that's new. So, we've had a few clients, the Hogan kid with the huge leg, getting a lot of schools reaching out to him. And
Yeah, I saw that.
His goal is different. He wants to be a walk-on. Kickers don't get scholarships often, so he wants to be a walk-on and kick somewhere, to finish out his college career as a former lacrosse player, and that's fun. And he will get that opportunity because of it. But the D1 high school promo, Amari Bolden, Amari Grayson, Bubba Grayson just got West Virginia. Kyle Mosley, the defensive tackle for Georgia, got App State. Josiah Oxidine, 2026 quarterback from South Carolina, got Tennessee. Malik Criswell from Georgia got Marshall. There's a lot of kids getting offers out there, and we're talking everything from AIC, which is Division II, American International College, which is actually right near me. One of our clients wanted that offer and got it, which is great. And now he gets to continue his college football, and he'll probably get some financial aid to, Power 5 West Virginia and Tennessee offers. So it's going well. I think the more success we have, the less questions there are about whether it works or not. I'll tell you that much, because it hasn't been unsuccessful for anybody. I can't think of one client we had that hasn't had a success so far.
Yeah, I think that's what's unique about the program. The fact that it's had such great success, that the athletes that have come in one by one have picked up offers. I think what's also really interesting is, like you saw when Oxidine picked up the offer, obviously he had followed me right away. I think he already had followed you from University of Tennessee. Those guys at the college level that are active on Twitter, and we've talked about it before. Nick Saban isn't probably active on Twitter, but and maybe not his OC, but certainly his GAs, his recruiting coordinators, his positional coaches, analysts. They're all going to be on there looking to find guys that can do things, and that's what's going on in Tennessee. Tennessee, that actually obviously was one of their prime coaches, but you're going to have a mix of that. I mean, Matt Rule follows me on Twitter. Heck, I always tell kids, they're like, "Oh, who's some of the guys that follow you that anyone would know?" I said, well, okay, if you're at college football, you would know Matt Rule, right? And they would say, yep. Oh, yeah. Okay. I said, well, if you were NFL, you would know OBJ, right? I said, yeah. I said, well, there's two for you that probably no one else has following him. Okay. So, and I think that's the power of the time that we've put in over all the years. The fact that, listen, as an analyst, you can be right as much as you're wrong. The fact that you're right a lot is a big deal, right? Because there's a lot of people that have no idea about being right. And what I mean by that is, like, when you choose 5-star and 4 stars, if half of those guys go on to be NFL players, that's a phenomenal track record. People think about it like they love to point, and we're going to get to the NFL Combine in a little bit, but they love to point to the ones that you don't nail. Well, the fact that you nailed half of them is pretty impressive. The fact that half of them are in the NFL tells me that you watch the film and you know what you're doing, right? So that experience, coupled with the following that we've had, where so many coaches do respect it, and I say this all the time: the coaches that are now coaching in college at the positional level, the analysts. I'm not talking about of all the coordinators, but obviously some of them. Those were guys, and you would agree with this as well. Those were guys you analyzed a lot of them when they were in high school, right? You ranked a lot of them. Those were a lot of guys that I saw come to events. They're now adults, right? And that's part of the process. Now, when they look to see who do I think knows about prospects, those guys have been through the system with us, and they're going to look at what we're doing. So for what is the benefit? The benefit to the current player is that these guys trust the experience, and that's why you're starting to see tremendous results for the prospects that we've been working with.
Yeah, and it's starting to get more fun. I mean, at first, it's not that it's not enjoyable. At first, it was a curiosity. Will these guys get traction? And the first few clients we had took a while to get traction, and then when you get, Kruger lands at Florida Atlantic or Hartman lands at Oregon State, you're like, okay, this was cool, but that was a fight. That was a fist fight, continually putting them out there and getting them exposure. When you see, the kids who are just on the cusp, because those guys started from kind of zero. You see the guys on the cusp, and you watch their film, and Criswell, the safety from Georgia who got Marshall, he's going to get a lot more. I mean, I saw it when I watched this film initially, and it took, I think, a couple months for him to get Marshall, maybe 3 months into our program. And then you see like Grayson visits West Virginia and he gets an offer as an offensive lineman, but Kyle Mosley, who has 8 offers, doesn't. It's positional need. And it's really like, it doesn't mean Grayson's a better prospect than Mosley is. Mosley has more offers, but they need offensive linemen, and they like, Grayson. So, again, we put them out there. If you're good enough, I mean, I don't claim at all to be the reason Oxidine got an offer from Tennessee. We helped, but his talent did it, and so I'm working with some of our new clients, and I'm telling them, like, listen, you got to do your part. You keep grinding, you keep working hard, you keep giving us new film, you keep, going out there to camps and doing your thing and making your own noise, and we'll make noise for you on social media. And that combination will be successful to whatever level. Like I said, Division II, or Power 5, it's going to happen. So, when I'm talking to people initially, the first thing is inquisitive. I ask them what their goal is. Is it FCS, FBS, Power 5, Group of 5 if it's FBS? And then they're inquisitive. It's like, okay, I'm interested in hearing more about your program, and then I send them information about it. But you can't just send the link. You have to explain it to them, because everybody's sending links out there now to sign up for this, that, and the other, and give us your money and all this other stuff. So I explained to them, I say, this is the best one. This is the sweet spot one. This is the one you probably want. You don't have to listen to me. You can experience the one time if you want to, or you can experience a 3-month, but the 6-month is the sweet spot. And that's the one you probably want. And then they talk to their parents, and their parents sometimes come back and say, well, it's too expensive. And my response to that is, I wish you luck, in your recruiting journey. I had one kid tell me, that they couldn't do it. It was too expensive, which I completely understand. I mean, we're in a crap economy. And he said, I'm just going to hope to, get some new film out there, and my response was, good luck. I wish you luck. I hope you do well. But where's that film going to go? I mean, it's just going to go nowhere. You got 130 followers. No one on earth is going to find that film except for your aunt and your uncle and, all the people that follow you that already know you exist. It's getting to people that don't know you exist. That is the key. So I feel confident about it.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick, because this is really a fundamental conversation about much more than just so much more than just about recruiting. And it happens to be in our space where we happen to be gurus besides the recruiting spot. And you'll see where I'm going with this. Social media marketing, okay? The ability to market yourself in social media requires a few things. Number one, interesting content, right? Number two, you have to be able to build a following, okay? A reason why people want to be following you. Why do they want to follow Coach Schuman? Why do they want to follow Mike Farrell, right? And then a specific thing that either they're learning or getting information from, right? So, I don't know, someone could be teaching a course, right? If I was breaking down film on football plays, and that was my whole social media, my whole presence, I would probably begin to build a following. People deem me to be an expert, right? So in this case, we're talking information, we're talking recruiting content, identifying prospects, okay, finding them, and building the social media presence, which we have done already for you. Done. Mike and me have done this because 25 years putting in, 20 for me, 25 for Mike, of putting in the time. We have built the engine for you. This is a very important thing. It just hit me right now as to one of the things when you said 132 followers. Why is an athlete who puts out 132 followers not have a hard time getting coaches to pay attention? It's the algorithm. The algorithm of social media wants people to stay on it longer. Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, right? Why do I have a big TikTok presence? Why do you have a ginormous Twitter presence? Why do I have a big Twitter presence? Why do I have 2.5 million viewers of my YouTube in the last month? Okay, that's views, 2.5 million. Why? Is because we have put in the years of experience to build that following, whether yours was accidental or just because of informational. I think in your case, it wasn't that you were a social media guru, although you obviously learned it, but you were an informational guru. You were providing information that was valuable to a lot of people. So people wanted to get that information for you. And by the way, half the people like to disagree with you, right? So
More than
beyond
half,
what
90%.
but think about that. That's an important thing. You're still providing information. They're going to say Mike Farrell is a genius. Mike Farrell's an idiot, right? But they're going to sit there and follow Mike Farrell because they want to be able to chime in one way or the other. Okay. Mine's a little bit different, but from a camp side, from MVPs, from rankings, from all those kind of things, that has built the following, and then I'm providing a lot of information with respect with recruiting. This has been built over time. We've built the following for you. What is different between this and other companies that sell this stuff? Sell something, nothing's like ours, but sell something remotely in the same marketplace. They don't have following. They don't have the coaches following them. They don't have the presence where people are going to follow them in the marketplace. We're the hub already. We already provide a hub. There's very few hubs in the recruiting space. I could probably name a handful. You're probably the same. You can probably name a handful. That's it. That's the value of it. That is the value. So if you have 132 followers as a prospect and you put your film out there and the algorithm goes out to the algorithm says no one's going to watch this. I'm not even talking about college coaches, right? But because hey, no one is going to watch this, that means that the college coaches who potentially might be your marketplace are not going to watch it because it's not going to go out to them even in the algorithm portion of it. Whereas our stuff will go out in the algorithm portion of it. Besides the actual component of the following, the algorithm likes it because people are watching our stuff. Now, you might get 100 likes from your friends. Okay. I always say this, like, oh, you go on Instagram and you see this. A kid puts out a video that's, I don't know, a local high school kid does it nice, that makes a nice play. 100 of his 50 classmates in school like it. And the kid goes, I get 150 likes. You look at his likes, 75 of them are girls from his class, 35 of them are guys on his team, 5 coaches from his high school team, and 25, 30 kids from his school, all contained in a local area. Well, if he was selling hamburgers to the local market, yeah, that might be valuable. Here's a local hamburger joint, and the 150 people that like it might go to that local hamburger joint. But if you're trying to get national recruiting, get exposure, you need to be where the hubs are, and we're one of the hubs.
Yeah. So that was, my response. And again, I'm not going to oversell. I'm not going to pester. If you say no, I'm going to wish you luck. But if your reasoning is I'm going to just try to get new film or do it on my own or whatever, that's great. And it might work for you, and it's hard work. This makes it easier. So, I have a few kids that, like I said, 2026 kids getting, he's got followed by, Colorado, Arizona State coaches. He's getting mail and stuff like that. I said, great, you're on the right track. I mean, you're 2026. We're in the 2024 cycle. I said, but you can speed it up and you can make it a lot faster, and he's thinking about doing that. And we've had that happen, and then there's other guys who just don't have anything, and when you don't have anything, this opportunity isn't accorded to everybody. I mean, there's just not
right.
Anybody can't just DM us and say, can you promote me? You got to have some talent. You've got to have skills. You've got to be, so when I look at the film, I'm like, okay, what is this kid? Is he an FCS level kid? Is he a Division II kid? I don't mind that, but you got to understand that that's where your focus has to be. So when you see Tennessee and West Virginia offers and you've got nothing going on and you want us to socially promote you, if you're good enough, we will. But you got to understand that that takes time. So, I think there's a lot of people out there that look at the one timer and be like, oh, whoa, look, maybe I can get West Virginia. No, not one time, 6 times, or over a year. It's going to take that time. And people don't want to make that investment in time. But what they will be doing when they've graduated high school and going off to college is they won't be playing football, or they'll be walking on the team to try to make it, and this is an opportunity to sort of, get some of your education or all of your education paid for. And in some cases it's to take, I can say with confidence that Grayson and Mosley, two of Coach Manis's next level recruit guys, wouldn't be Power 5 considerations right now without the program. Eventually, maybe, but they're 2024, so the clock's ticking. But without this program, they would not be Power 5. So what's happened? Maybe a kid ends up at Georgia Southern, which is great. Maybe he plays great there, transfers to a bigger school. Or maybe he's discovered through this program and he ends up at, I'm not going to say Georgia, but Georgia Tech or West Virginia or, a higher level school, Virginia Tech, something like that, because of it. So it's a good investment. I get frustrated at times because I'm like, this is a no-brainer. If I don't have kids, right? You have a 7-year-old, if your kid matriculates towards football and he's 14, 15 years old and he's on the cusp, but he's not getting a lot of attention, and your kid's not a good example because he's your kid. But let's say he's not your kid, right? Then it was a no-brainer. It's absolutely, I'm going to give it a shot to get my kid the opportunity to maybe fulfill a dream of his. And if it fails, what did it cost me? Not a lot of money. And if it succeeds, $1,000 6-month program, if you land a scholarship, it's 250 times the investment, roughly, maybe 300 times, depending on the school. You're getting an amazing return on your investment if you land a scholarship.
And think about all the things that people are going to, right? So, yeah, and you brought my son, which is great. He's going to have a certain amount of genetic athletic ability, just from what I've seen already. He did get some of that, a good amount of it. But beyond that part of it, think the things we send them to. So if we bring him to work with a trainer, right, we expect the results out of that, right? If we bring him in any of the sports, basketball or football, whatever he likes right now, it's basketball, football. But if he goes down the line, like we want him to be the best student he can, we will pay to make sure that he has the people around him that can help him score the highest SAT scores he can. Whatever that is within my budget, right? So that's going to be thousands and thousands of dollars. All with the objective, yes, a scholarship would be great, but we think hey, we'd love it if he went to an Ivy League school, right? Even if he got scholarship offers. Okay. So that's what the investment is. And if you're investing all this money in training, you join a 7-on-7 club, you go to camps and combine, and Manis talks about this a lot, right? You go to all-star games, you go to this. I'm not even talking about when they're in high school. I'm talking about from the time they're in 5th grade. A lot of these kids are doing this. 4th grade, they're going to this club and that club, and they're spending all this money. And then you get to the point when it really, really matters. Recruiting. This is why you're doing it all, right? This is why you've paid for it. And then you skimp out on something if you have the means. I'm not listening. There's some people that don't have the means. We understand that completely. But if the people have some level of means, this is something you don't want to skip out on. This is something that will make all the stuff you're doing in the background get out there and be featured in light. So that's kind of our long. I think it's an opportunity. And listen, when you said it best when we started, we had no idea how it would go. We knew we had a lot of people following us. We know we had a presence for all these years. We didn't know when we started this process that bringing this stuff to light, these players to light, would help them in the way that it has. But once we saw it, we're like, we got to double down on this, because there are so many things that we can do for more kids. Now you got to be accepted into the program. We're not just if you're a great high school football player, and I say this not to belittle someone, okay? If someone is, and I when I was in high school, I had linemen like this, 5'7", 200-pound right guard, okay? Unless he's a long snapper, he's not going to be able to play guard in college. Okay. So if a person like that did come to us, we'd say, hey, listen, are you a long snapper? Are you playing linebacker? Maybe you can play division. If not, then it probably wouldn't be the right program for those people, that person. Now, listen, could he be the best? Could he be an all-league guard at his high school? Absolutely. Could he be all-county? Absolutely. But it would not be the right prospect for our program. And that's the thing that we're doing that's different is we want to make sure that this person is someone that we feel could succeed in the program. We're not judging, because you were a great high school football player that you shouldn't play college. We're just saying we want people that we think can succeed in the program, and we can accelerate that process if we deem that it's someone that's in a program through our following and through all that kind of thing. And I think that's different. There are programs out there that will promote anybody for any reason, and then at the end, those people are really upset because they spent thousands and thousands of dollars, and the truth is they were a really good high school football player, but there was nowhere else to go. And there's nothing wrong with it. I've coached many kids that were great high school football players, and they go to the University of Georgia as a student, and they have a fantastic 4 years, okay? They go to Penn State, they have a fantastic 4 years. There is absolutely nothing wrong with it. Our program is for guys that we think can have an opportunity at a higher level. We call it D1 because there's a lot of kids that are coming to our program that are going D1, but at a higher level to get opportunity, to get scholarships, to get some money, to be able to have success in football.
Yeah. So myfootballcamps.com/D1. If you're a transfer portal kid who happens to be watching this, it's myfootballcamps.com/transfer.
I'll put it up.
DM us if you're interested. I'll take a look. You'll take a look, and we'll talk to you about the program itself. And it's gaining a lot of traction. We've always said at the beginning of this, and we've sort of, this isn't a straight line. I mean, this has never been a straight line. We've zigged and zagged and changed things. And, a lot of the time when we first started talking about this last June is like, we don't know what's going to work. So we did this. That didn't work. We did this. That didn't work. We did this. So it's not linear, but it is going to eventually hit the algorithm of, life, where this is going to be more of a selective process because we won't have the time to do everybody. And that's where it's headed. Not there yet. So there's opportunities to sign up. Do it now. DM, we'll talk to you all about it. We're already 45 minutes. Well, we're not 45 minutes in, but we're 22 minutes in, but it's 12:45. Let's talk combine. So some of these guys, Darnell Washington is the one I tweeted. I just tweeted, and this talks to reach and algorithm. So sometimes when you tweet something, I tweeted the video of his one-handed catch. Did you see his catch?
I did not.
Okay, so it's really amazing catch. You got to Google it or find it on Twitter or whatever. Darnell Washington catch. It's a one-handed catch, and again, it's a cross-body catch. So it's like he got turned around. OBJ's was over his head, which was probably the best catch I've ever seen in my life. Justin Jefferson last year, I think against the Bills, was an amazing catch. This is an amazing catch, in a combine drill. But this kid's 6'7", 265. He ran, I think, a 4.65. But the thing that Darnell Washington makes him special, he's going to be a first rounder. I mean, Michael Mayer or Darnell Washington will be from Notre Dame. Darnell Washington from Georgia.
Is that it there?
It's the only, it's the most, So here's the algorithm. I said this in Twitter. You guys are going to think I'm nuts, but here goes. Darnell Washington, if used properly, has a chance to be a weapon unlike anything the NFL has seen. So you're talking 6'7", 265. He's not, Gronk is probably the biggest tight end weapon of all time. I'm not saying he's the best tight end of all time. That's a debate that people can have. But you couldn't stop him. You couldn't stop Gronk. This kid, utilized right, can't be stopped. He just can't. He was a 5-star kid out of Bishop Gorman in high school. And he's like LeBron James playing football. That's how he looks. That's how he looked in high school. We had him as a 5-star. I remember him at Under Armour. He was lost. He didn't really know anything at practice. He didn't know route trees. He didn't know anything. He was just kind of really raw. But the thing that I really like about him that really makes me think that he's going to be special is he's a willing blocker. He's such a good blocker. So there's a video out there. I haven't
Fantastic blocker.
I haven't commented on his blocking sled drill, but there's somebody who cut together his blocking sled drills with, Mayer and some of the other tight ends there. And he moves the sled so easily. He's like an offensive tackle and a willing blocker. At Georgia, he could have been a pouty little dude, not little dude, big dude. Brock Bowers got all the attention. Darnell wasn't targeted that much. Eric Gilbert came in there, never played, but was a big name athletic kid. A lot of people thought Darnell should transfer. He didn't listen to any of them. He stuck with it. Now he's going to be a first rounder. But the thing about Darnell that I was always impressed with was that he wasn't a quitter. If I'm not going to be a target in the passing game that much, I'm going to be the best blocker I can. And he is a legitimate killer. I mean, the best blocking tight end to come out that I've seen since Gronk probably. So he's going to be special. I think there's a chance for whoever drafts him to really build an offense around his abilities. Because how do you cover 6'7", 265, who can adjust to the football like that? You just can't cover that. You can't cover Travis Kelce, and he's smaller than that. You couldn't cover Gronk, and he was about the same size. They have a chance to make Darnell Washington special, whoever drafts him.
That catch is unbelievable. He does look like a LeBron James playing football. It's amazing. I mean, that when he was playing in the national championship, obviously Brock Bowers is athletically really good, and he's got good size. He's very fast, and he's kind of like a wide receiver. No, he's a tight end. Blocks well, but Washington is so like when he came. I mean, he wore the 0, right? He was 0.
Yeah.
He when he came out in the field, he was so big. I mean, so big. There was he's bigger than LeBron James weight-wise, right? So LeBron's probably 250, I would say, right? In weight. And
yeah, I think LeBron's like 6'7", 255.
And this guy's 6'7", 280-ish, 270.
Yeah, he measured in 265, but he played probably around 275 or so.
It's just right when you want to. Well, when LeBron and you probably evaluated him when he was, or that was probably early days of your whole process. He deemed as one of the top tight end prospects at that time, or the top.
Yeah, he was. I mean, it was obvious he was going to play. So they're listing LeBron James at 6'9", which is probably a little tall. Maybe he's 6'8". But yeah, I mean, he was a very good football player. It was clear he was going to play basketball. He was in the early 2000s, a high school phenom that ESPN started putting on the air, and he was never going to play football. If he did, he was going to be probably a tight end. 6'9", 250 is listed. And he was just a physical marvel in high school as a football player. And he would have gone to Ohio State, and he probably would have been a first rounder and probably be a Hall of Famer at football if he wanted to. But he was just so good at basketball, it didn't matter. This guy, when we were covering him in high school, that's the comparison we made athletically and body type wise. He just looked like LeBron James. Tight ends, 6'7" tight ends are very rare. 6'7" tight ends built like this are very rare. But to me, 6'7" tight ends who are built like this, who want to block, are unbelievably rare. And he's a guy who can, in the red zone, he can scrape and then release. You're not going to cover him. I'm sorry. If the quarterback has any sort of accuracy, he's going to throw it, a couple feet above his head. No D-back is 6'7". This guy obviously shows he can adjust to the ball. It's Jimmy Graham, who played basketball, was probably the most athletic, tall tight end I've ever seen. This guy has a chance to be better than him. And he's He hasn't shown that on film. You don't really see a ton from him because they didn't utilize him that much. But the NFL is a different story. I mean, you could build an offense around a tight end, and I think he could be the guy. So he stood out to me. Obviously, the quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson set the vertical, the kid from Florida set the vertical record. Looked good passing, showed a big arm. I still think he's really raw. I don't think he's going to be successful. I think he's going to be picked too high. He could go number 1 overall. Will Levis from Kentucky, his arm velocity wasn't everything I expected it to be. He had a big arm. He showed a big arm, but his velocity, miles per hour, was outdone by C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson, and it was the same as Stetson Bennett. And that's pretty much the whip, how fast the ball comes out. So I don't think he cemented himself as the number 1 pick. A lot of people were saying, Indianapolis going to trade up for Will Levis. Bryce Young didn't work out. C.J. Stroud looked great to me. I think there's 2 quarterbacks, Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. I think the other ones are projects, and we're going to have to wait and see if they're going to be any good, but I don't think they're going to be any good.
And I think that's an interesting theme that they're all going to go high because quarterback is such a needed thing. Or a lot of them will go high, but I do think that there's not a ton of quarterbacks that can do all the things you need to do at the NFL. Fundamentally, you still have to be able to survive 17 games and be able to stand in the pocket and throw the ball, because if you take off too much, you're going to be on the stretcher. So that's one of the things that I think is an issue at the NFL draft level, that there's no way to address it, because it used to be that the NFL dictated who got recruited in college. It's the other way around. What high school offenses are, what college offenses are running, is what dictated in the NFL.
Yeah. And what you mentioned, 17 games, speaks to Bryce Young. Can he hold up for 17 games? Is he big enough? He weighed in at 204, 5'10" and whatever. I don't care about his size. I think he's going to be great. But it depends on the team he goes to. Justin Fields has been running for his life for 2 years for the Bears. A bad situation for him. Not a lot of talent there. He's probably going to be hampered in his career because those first 2 years and the punishment he takes, and it's not going to get any better next year. I mean, they don't have a lot of weapons. It really depends on where you go. So if Bryce Young goes to Houston, I think it's a bad fit for him. I think he'll get, he'll still have a solid career, but he won't be successful. But if somebody trades up number 1, Indianapolis, they don't have great receivers, but, they've got a pretty okay offensive line, even though it wasn't good last year, but they've got some pieces there. Good running backs, solid defense. That's where he could be successful. So it's a crapshoot where you go. That's why I think these 2 guys, Anthony Richardson and Will Levis, going high to crap teams is a bad idea, because they're not polished players. If you put them in a situation, where like Mahomes was traded up for and he got to sit a year. Lamar Jackson was taken late in the first round. And he sort of got time to, develop, because of Baltimore was a good football team that could run the ball and play good defense and allow him to develop as a passer. Jalen Hurts taken, I think, second round, and they put pieces around him. If you go to a good football team, you have a chance. So that's why I think Stroud and Young probably have the best chance of success on bad teams, even though I don't think Houston's really going to be successful with anybody. And then these other guys are just flyers. So they're all going to go top 10, though. I'm telling you, the NFL is just dumb like that. They're all 4 quarterbacks will go in the top 10. 2 will stink, 2 will be good. And I think, Bryce Young and Stroud will be the good ones. Real quick on the 40 times, we talked about it off air.
Yep.
DJ Turner, not the biggest corner, like 5'11", 178 from Michigan, but absolutely blistering 4.26. Nobody else below 4.3, which was surprising to me. Devin a chain at 4.32. Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee was a kid that I thought would run a low 4.3. He ran a 4.4, which is fine. But how about, you remember Owen Popo?
No.
Owen Popo, I thought you would know because he was an 8th grade phenom. So this was a kid, he's from Georgia. He was a kid who had a ton of offers as a 7th and 8th grader. And he ended up going to Auburn. but he was recruited by everybody. He had like 50 Power Five offers, on and on and on. Never a huge kid, not a big frame to fill out. He's 6 foot, 225. He ran a 4.39 as a linebacker, but Nolan Smith, who was the number 3 player in his class, I forget what class it was.
Right, I saw that.
He ran a 4.39. Really nice kid. He was an IMG kid, originally from Georgia, went to UGA, had an okay career there, was injured this past year, so missed the national championship and all that stuff. 4.39 at, whatever, he's 6'2", 235 pounds, made himself some really, really good first round money there. And, a high character kid. A lot of people are tearing apart the culture and character of UGA because the Jalen Carter, situation and the drag racing and the 2 unfortunate fatalities from that. Culture at UGA is fine. And Nolan Smith is a tremendous example of that culture. Great kid, happy for him. But a lot of these guys I covered in high school, this is a different era. Kaylee Ringo, I remember, his mom worked at an airline, so he was able to take a lot of visits. He was at our 5-star challenge a couple times. He won fastest man there once. Him and Elias Ricks that year were like Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, or Bryce Young and DJ Uwanga-Lele. The debate we had for a cornerback that year between Ringo and Ricks was epic. There were a lot of arguments. We knew Ringo was going to run faster, and Ricks didn't run. The cornerback from Alabama, he didn't run because he's got a hammy, so he's going to run at his pro day. We knew Ringo be faster. We knew he was going to fill out and be bigger. We knew Ricks was more instinctual. Ringo looks like he's going to go late first round. Ricks probably sliding second, third round because he transferred from LSU. Didn't play a lot at Alabama this year because of injuries. Both those guys, I think, are going to be absolute steals. But those are the things I remember about these, like the debates. And these kids would show up at the 5-star challenge. I think they did it 2 years in a row. Go head to head, competitive kids, and really good stories. I think Ringo's mom was sick for a while, if I remember correctly. And I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't remember everybody's situation, but I think his mom, was sick and was fighting cancer. Rick's situation, he went to LSU. He had a tremendous freshman year. I think he had 3 pick sixes that year. Was going to transfer to Ohio State. His mom talked him out of it. Stayed at LSU. Injury his sophomore year, but was overshadowed by Derek Stingley, who ended up being, a top 5 pick last year in the draft. Wanted to learn from Nick Saban. Transfers to Alabama. Admittedly had trouble with the wants and needs of a Saban demanding coach, and learned how to be a man and mature under Saban. Now, the transfer cost him a little bit of draft stock, but I think it's going to really pay off for him in the long run, and I think he's going to be a superstar. So those are kind of some of the kids that stand out that I remember.
What's amazing? So I was watching Nolan Smith's 40-yard dash, and I saw this in quite a few guys. If you remember the old days when you see the 40-yard dash, it looks like their legs are moving really fast, right? Now it looks like they gained so much ground with their powerful strides that they're running super fast 40-yard dashes from their power, which has been a change. And you might have seen at the high school level, Nichols Carver, who's run like 10-2 and 100-meter dash. He's like 6'6", 240.
Yep.
Freak. Freak. But a lot of these guys, you're seeing a little bit more with the NFL Combine too. Those big guys are generating a ton of power. If they're not like heavy, where they're not carrying a lot of body fat, they are able to generate a lot of power, and their sprinting speed. It's almost like the little bit of a change of their sprinting styles that these guys are generating so much power, where bigger guys are able to, with a lot of power, run very fast 40s. And not just what it used to be, right? The real slim guys that were running fast 40s. It's interesting seeing it. I'd love to do a little more analysis on it. I don't know the answer on it. I just found it intriguing because you watch Nolan Smith's 40. It doesn't look like he's like turning it over per se, right?
Yeah, it's powerful strides. And so what happened years ago, and you've tested kids a billion times. You just tested some last weekend at the Winterfest.
Yep.
10 years ago, especially 15 years ago, there was a lot of kids that would come to camps that didn't have 40-yard form. They didn't know how to run it. If they were track kids, maybe they did, but they didn't know how important a get off was and balance was. Now everybody, I mean, Trevon Walker was, picked so high last year by the Jaguars, 272 pounds, ran a 4.51, 1.62 split. It's the get off, it's the explosion. So you see these guys who have, I mean, Nolan Smith's 240 pounds. You see guys, I don't know, 270 like Trevon Walker, 280 who can run, in the 4.6 range. And you begin to wonder, like, Nolan Smith outran almost every wide receiver. It's like, are the wide receivers slower? No. These guys the wide receivers are less about their lower body and more about that turning it over, like you talked about. The powerful athletic guys, they get out and they go. And I don't even think they know how fast they're going. I think they're surprised. I think, like, when Nolan Smith hits a 4.39, I'm sure he's acting cool about it all, but I don't think he feels he's going that fast. I don't think Trevon Walker felt he was going that fast. It's all power and explosion, and that's what the NFL wants. In the wide receivers, they don't really care as much about that. Like, Jalen Hyatt's kind of a thin guy. He's not a real power wide receiver. He's more of a speed guy. But when you're choosing between a linebacker or a hybrid, an edge linebacker, and you see one runs a 4.39 and the other runs a 4.52, you could tell one of them's much more explosive, quick twitch, going to get to the spot sooner, and that's the guy you want to draft. But I remember years ago, kids didn't know how to run the 40. So when I talk about Ricks and Ringo was a track guy in high school. He knew he had the technique down. And Ricks was not as much of a track guy, and he didn't know. And so Ringo would always outrun him. And then we had the debate. We knew Ringo was going to run. This was 4 years ago. We knew he was going to pop off a sub 4.4, even out of high school, because of his technique and his speed. We didn't know what Ricks would run. So I think we ended up choosing Ricks because of his anticipation and his instincts. But we had them right next to each other, and it was a really good debate. But it's 1:03. We got to get out of here. But,
let's go.
But that's interesting. I love these battles. And, now we got 2 kids going off the NFL, and we got Owangalele's going to Oregon State, but he'll be in the NFL. Bryce Young could be the number 1 pick. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, all these debates positionally. I follow them in the NFL to see, who pans out the most. So Ricks and Ringo, I'll be watching.
If you had one guy besides the quarterbacks that you would take in this NFL draft. So quarterbacks, I think we talked about, you like Bryce Young, you like CJ Stroud. If there's one guy outside of quarterback position who you would take, who would that be?
That's a good one. So I'm a big cornerback guy, right? I think corner is the hardest position to play. The receivers are so good now. It's really difficult to, find a guy who has a combination of speed and technique. And with Ringo, I talk about 4.36 speed. Technique's not great, and he might have to play safety because he can get turned around sometimes to take some risk. Christian Gonzalez at Oregon is 6'1", 200 pounds. He ran a 4.38, 1.54 split, 42-inch vert, 11.1 broad. The kid's a freak, but he's 6'1". He's long enough. His arms is 32. It's not elite, but it's not bad. That's the type of kid that I want, a Sauce Gardner type that I can put on one side and I can feel comfortable. He's not going to win every battle, but he's going to lock his guy down more often than not. So it would be Christian Gonzalez. He'll go in the top 15. Devin Witherspoon at Illinois is another guy I like a lot. Didn't test as well. Big hitter. But Christian Gonzalez is the guy. I would take a lockdown corner over a wide receiver, a running back, even an offensive tackle or an edge guy. I would take a corner.
Yeah, it takes away one side of the ball immediately. Oh, very good. All right, we'll let everybody go. myfootballcamps.com/D1 for high school players. myfootballcamps.com/transfer for transfer prospects. We'll see you guys next week.